Hello, this is Diane Blake. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at a book I just created over the last week. It took all week to do it, but definitely worth the effort. This is called A Book of Trees. I created this with Roxanne Evans Stout's class, and I'll leave a link below to how you can get to her class. But she was showing us how to make a book with all these nice collage papers and natural materials and that kind of thing. And so this is my effort towards that. First, I'll just show you that this is bound with napkin for the spine. And I have a little dangle here. Hers didn't have a dangle, but I wanted a dangle. And just to flip in here real quick, you'll see that I used napkin to bind it. I just took strips, and because it's double-sided with collage and everything, I didn't really want to put holes in it, so this is put together, bound with strips of that napkin, and then after I put all of that together, I put another strip of napkin over the top, just to hide that and make sure it all sticks together pretty well. So that's what we have here. Okay, so now, my book of trees starts with a photograph that I took back in California probably 15 years ago or so in the autumn of some trees that are poplars up against a blue sky, so it turned out pretty nice. But because I printed on tracing paper and blotted it, it came out really soft, and I really do like that look. And there's some lace and some cheesecloth, that we call it that, and it's an open weave cloth. And then there's this book page that I used here, and then I added a saying that I created on a piece of rice paper that I added wax to, some beeswax, and it says, "Failure is a sign of doing. If there is no doing to avoid failure, then there can be no success. Keep doing." So I really like that, because I've been sort of procrastinating on this course, or this book, for almost a year. So for me, this was very apropos. Some of my hand-painted papers, and then some stamping on top. That's a store-bought stamp. Those are store-bought stamps, but they had kind of a nature theme that I liked. Also wrote something about one of the trees that I used to look at on my way home every day, or on my way to work. I called it the rain tree. It was a single tree up on some hills. I put, "Rain tree in Carmel Mountain Ranch was alone on a grassy knoll, alone but majestic, its single shadow marking time." So one of the things that Roxanne wanted us to do was to include a lot of natural materials, hand-painted papers, just something that felt like it was organic, and so that's what I tried to do. Here we have, on this side, we have a piece of broken twig here I wrapped with some embroidery floss, and then I took a piece of that same napkin and I used some embroidery stitches, it's a back stitch, to outline one of the images that was on that napkin. And it covers these pressed flowers that I dried and pressed about 2 years ago. They still have some color in them, so they're pretty, and I put a little Mod Podge over the top of them. Hopefully that will maintain the color for a little longer. This is a paper that I bought that has grasses in it. That was kind of pretty. I really like it because of the naturalness of it. This little card here, but it was something that I created, made with wax paper and tissue paper, and in between I have another pressed flower, and I just used some half and half Elmer's glue and water to attach that tissue to the wax paper. And that's something my grandmother taught me to do over 20 years ago, so it's kind of neat that I get to include her in this. We've got some tea stained paper, and another piece of rice paper with wax, beeswax on it that I colored, and then wrote, "Wisdom comes with experience, and noting the change in my existence requires a change in being." Anyways, I had that, and I've got some more cheesecloth, a couple of store-bought leaf skeletons. After all, it is a book of trees. On this side, again, to protect some flowers underneath, I used another piece of that napkin, another twig. This is just a little piece of blanket. It's a string that my kitties pulled from one of my blankets, and I just decided, oh, I will not let it go to waste. So I used it to wrap the twig. I'm not sure what this came from. Looks a little bit like a shoelace, but I like the neutral tones of it. When we pull this up, you can see that I have more dried flowers that I dried a couple of years ago, and they stayed pretty red. Underneath that is a canvas that I eco-dyed, and I kind of like the way the leaves came out on that, so it went together with this. On this side, I have some more hand-painted papers. This is on tracing paper, but on top of that is this leaf. This leaf is from, it's actually a petal from a flower that was in my mother-in-law's memorial service, which is over 20 years ago. So that really lasted quite a while. It's still got a little tinge of purple in there, so it goes with this page. This is another one of my photographs on tracing paper. Came out really nice and soft, but it was almost too soft, so I outlined the tree branches and with a micro pen. Let's see, do I have one of those here? I do, but not right next to me, so I'm not going to go there. But anyway, I outlined all of that and used a little gel pen for some color in a couple of places. Behind that, I have just a piece of a different kind of napkin that's really kind of coarse, and I thought it was kind of nice for a backdrop, and I've got a button with a butterfly, another regular button. This is a little piece of cording that had some rocks on it, and I think it was part of a keychain or something, but I thought it was pretty and went well with this, so I attached that. And a little piece of lace. Okay, on this page we have some more hand-painted paper with stamping, a Tim Holtz piece of cloth that had a butterfly stamped on it. And then this little thing is, I don't know, it's just a little circle that has a piece of foam underneath it it's sticky. So I used it sort of like a tab and to open this, and we'll see in a moment. But on this side, another piece of tracing paper that I printed one of my sunset photos through a tree. And then I cut the little part out here for the window from the envelope. And when you open it, you can see, yes, it is indeed an envelope. And this is another one of my sunset pictures. Those look like trees, and they kind of are, but they're actually something called cliff rose, and they do have a tree structure, and I really like that sunset. On this side, I went with some really heavy red cloth, and I didn't care for it much once I got it on there, so I used some gesso and other things and some paint on it to just break up the heaviness of the red that was on there. This piece here is a monoprint that had a tree trunk on it. You can't really see it, but it's in there. And then I decided to put a feather because this piece was really heavy. This is a piece of Tyvek that was melted, and because I put a stamp on it while it was hot, it melted into to create this little window that you can see through. And underneath that is something called Angelina fibers, and they're kind of shiny and give some texture to that page. Also, this is the page I decided to put an eyelet on, so I could put my dangle, which has a dragonfly, a little tree, and a couple of leaves. So I can leave this on the inside if I don't want it hanging on the outside, because my kitties do like to play with anything dangly. So if I can put dangles on the inside instead of the outside, it's better off for the book. On this side we have another canvas that is stamped, some flower type images on it, and some text stamp on it. And I have a little card that goes in the pocket, and there's a feather. And then these are a stamp that I made of leaves to put on there. On this side we have another skeleton, leaf skeleton that I bought, and a little bit of Tim Holtz paper that had the bird on it. It's collage paper of some sort, but I really like the bird, so, and he's sitting in a tree. I just thought the colors went well together. This is black cardstock that I sprayed some Perfect Pearls on, and it turned out really pretty. And on these are just grasses from my yard from last winter, and I just thought I liked the texture. You can't see here, but you can see that the little grasses are sticking up a little bit. On this page, we have some pattern paper that you use to make clothing, and I just stamped on that, and it has a nice translucent look to it. And then I did some stamping with some other stamps. This is eco-dyed watercolor paper, so I just because there was a white spot there on that watercolor paper, this made it easy for that to stand out. Then I have a couple of inserts because I turned that in a pocket. This is a stamp that I created of a tree. And this is a prayer from Ephesians 3:17. It says, "And I pray that Christ will be more and more at home in your hearts as you trust in him. May your roots go down deep into the soil of God's marvelous love." It definitely had a tree theme to it. I know I bought this online. I'm not sure where I bought it, but it's just an, oh gosh, I had the word in just a moment ago, but it's just a piece of lace. And there was a big yellow shiny thing in the middle. I took that off because it just didn't look organic. This is some more of that grass paper that I love, that I buy once in a while whenever I can find it. And this is just a tag from the craft store with a little butterfly. Just went with that well. There's less stuff going on here on this page except for the paper itself, so I just left it that way. Didn't want it too busy. Okay, on this side I used washi tape to make a hinge so I could put this piece of paper on here. This is tea-dyed paper, and this is sprayed paper that I use, more tracing paper, and these are my leaves that stamps that I created. And then there's a store-bought stamp, but that all went together with text on both of those. Some more flower stamps and text. And these are a couple of branches from my yard on some more of that napkin with a little bit of a tie of some fibers. On this side we have another one of my, well, this is one stamp that was stamped 3 times. And then this is a picture, actual picture. This tree is on top of these rocks. This is in a place called Montezuma's Castle in, well, Montezuma's Well, actually, in Arizona. It's a pretty cool place. And this is another one of my dried flowers. Some more black cardstock with Perfect Pearls. Some more cheesecloth. And then the last page, which is the back, and this is just simply a collage with some different kinds of stamps and stuff. I wanted this to be as flat as possible since it's the back of the book. I didn't want it catching on things. As you'll have noticed, the pages are all different sizes on purpose, just to make the book a little more interesting. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you like it, please do a thumb up and subscribe. I appreciate that. And I hope that this is something that gives you some ideas for your own books. Talk to you soon.